Alright, this time on Lemon's World, we're going to return to the topic of pony cars. Now, in some other Lemon's World episodes, we've already talked about the pony cars from Ford and Chevy, of course the Mustang and the Camaro. But before we go any further, let's just have a quick recap of what is a pony car.
We're going to the arbiter of all knowledge in this to determine these things, which is, of course, Wikipedia, which calls the pony car an American car classification for affordable, compact, highly styled coupes or convertibles with sporty or performance-oriented image.
Alright, there you go. The Mustang and Camaro clearly fit that bill. I mean, what is a Camaro if not highly styled? But we're missing the third of the big three, Chrysler. You know, the Stephen Baldwin of the big three.
Yeah, the Billy Carter of the big three.
The Pastor Maldonado of the big three.
The Godfather 3 of the big three.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
The Miranda of the big three.
Eat me.
Oh, you're so brave inside your sandwich.
The Missouri of the big three.
The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull of the big three.
I was the one that said, I'm done with this series. It was great. Let's walk away.
So, pony cars from Chrysler then. Now, we could of course talk about the Dodge Challenger and the Plymouth Barracuda, the classics, but we really haven't seen those in Lemons and they're kind of, actually worth money. So what are we talking about here? Well, the short version is the K car.
Yeah, so we've touched on this before. Chrysler in some ways was ahead of its time in terms of platform sharing. Of course, they were doing it because they were broke as a joke. But all of that means is they had basically one car, the K car, that could be configured into sedans, into coupes, into minivans, whatever. And they needed a pony car. Well, the pony car's got to be based on the K car too.
Now, what that meant was none of the advantages of classic pony cars, like the rear-wheel drive and the big V8. And instead, what you got was a small displacement and a turbocharger, which was way ahead of the game from Chrysler.
Yeah, the short version is because of maybe dubious 80s Chrysler build quality, the idea of turbocharging was maybe kind of ruined to the American buying public for, decades. So, Turbo Mopar, is that a pony car? Well, some of them are and some of them aren't. If you were to pick one that best fits the bill, I guess I would say that the Dodge Daytona is the Turbo Mopar that is the pony car, but I seem to think that there were several others that use that same drivetrain.
Yeah, there was also, the Dodge Daytona Turbo, the Dodge Daytona Z, the Dodge Daytona Turbo Z, the Dodge Daytona CS, the Dodge Daytona IROC, Plymouth Sundance RS Turbo Shelby CSX, Dodge Daytona Pacifica, Dodge Daytona Shelby, Chrysler Laser XT, Dodge Shadow ES Turbo, Dodge Lancer Shelby, Chrysler LeBaron GTS, Chrysler LeBaron GTC, Dodge Omni GLH, Dodge Omni GLHS, Shelby Charger, Dodge Lancer ES Turbo, Dodge Spirit RT, and Chrysler TC by Maserati, to say nothing of the various mundane cars with the same engine like the Plymouth Caravelle and the Chrysler New Yorker.
Now, it's worth mentioning for all of you Mopar experts down there in the YouTube comments that the Omni and Charger were not built on the K-car platform. They were hella older than that. Everything else on that list, I think, was a K or K derivative. It's all basically the same thing. So spare us your TC by Maserati outrage. And we're going to cover the TC by Maserati in a separate episode.
In the Camaro and Mustang videos, we talked about the many kinds of owners that these kinds of cars tend to have. So, what kinds of owners have bought Turbo Mopars? In a word, weirdos. We even had one that showed up that was owned by Dokken. Don Dokken. In the last 20 years, they've been owned by a dwindling number of weird people, and they all have the same garage. It's all full of boxes and tubs that are full of parts of engines, transmissions, half shafts, turbos, radiators, suspension bits. You can't own one of these things without owning 9 of them.
Yeah, and the people selling these things online, they always sell it with several boxes of spares, as if that's a positive. But regardless of all that, what we want to know, how do they do in Lemons? Well, the other pony cars Camaros have won 9 races. Mustangs have won 6 races. How many races has a turbo Mopar won?
0.0.
Yeah, so turbo Mopars, well, they haven't won any Lemons races. But thing about turbo Mopars is they're a very niche machine, and the people that bring them to Lemons races are turbo Mopar enthusiasts, and hope springs eternal.
Now, every single one of these turbo Mopar enthusiasts has heard us talk hundreds of times about how these engines are awful. If the engines don't blow up, then the transmissions will, and if you manage to keep both of ththose together, then the half shafts break apart. But their car is always going to be different. They're all put together from the good engine, which just means sifting through 15 boxes of parts to kind of shove it all together and maybe hold on to the boost. And guess what happens? Every single time. So here are a couple examples of those kinds of failures. The first one is the team Y'all out of the South, which is actually Pikes Peak racer Lane Schrantz, who has somehow inherited these 2 Dodge Celebrity Challenge Dodge Daytonas from like 1989. One of them is Ricky Schroeder, the other one is Don Dawkins' car. Guess what? These Celebrity Challenge cars, total knockoff of the Toyota Long Beach Grand Prix thing, they're terrible. They always blow up.
Another example is Dodgy Racing. Now, there's a lot of scuttlebutt around the Lemons paddock about these guys. They say, that thing's, it's putting a lot of horsepower to the tires. It's got a blueprinted cheater engine in it. And we're like, yeah, that's going to be a self-solving problem. And it always is.
Turbo Mopar enthusiasts will tell you that the holy grail of turbo Mopars is the Turbo 3 engine, which was the Stage 3 tuning that ended up in the Dodge Spirit RT. Now, turbo Mopar guys will tell you this car was faster than a Mustang GT in a straight line. Totally a pony car, right? Well, we've had one in Lemons, and it failed to pass tech because it was pouring oil out of the valve cover like somebody had turned a spigot.
Hey, Jason, are you seeing this?
Dodge Turbo. Tuned by Sheldon.
Alright, so where does that leave us? Well, Ford and Chevy, they use front-engine, rear-drive V8s for their pony cars. Chrysler beat the system by platform sharing and using high power density turbo 4s. To this day, enthusiasts of the turbo Mopar, they swear by the power potential. But do they win in Lemons?
Yes! Wow!
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Well, if they don't win at Lemons, what's at least the one that's done the best in Lemons?
That would be these turbo Mopar guys who scored a real Shelby Charger. And by scored, I mean pulled out of their yard as one of their 13 cars that they own. Now, what did they do to make it live? They took the turbo engine out of it and instead put in the carbureted engine out of a Dodge Aries. And then it ran way more than an average number of laps for any other turbo Mopar. Of course, for their second race, they slapped some Hellcat badges on it, put the turbo engine back in it, and guess what happened?
Charger, America's driving machine.
Well,